real value here is their leadership in physical AI and autonomous vehicles.
If we break above 380, you're looking at a market on Tesla that could retest the highs of around 480. So again, very big level.
And I think this is going to go down. The biggest chapter of Tesla's growth story is ahead of us.
I think Elon is one of those characters where we've always said, I think it's silly to ever bet against him.
At your peril, you underestimate Elon Musk, who often teeters on the edge of a disaster and then pivots at just the right moment.
All that and more. So let's get to it. At the closing bell on Friday, TSLA finished down about 3.5%, just a little bit shy of my threshold to buy for now. As we finish out the first half of 2025, Tesla is doing some pretty amazing things. There's no telling which way the wind will blow. Tesla up, Tesla down. But I do know one thing. The party is just getting started.
Tesla shares adding roughly 25% just this month as Elon Musk wraps up his time as a special government employee. It's something for everybody, Colin, in these numbers. If you look at the full year, a 1 year move, it's 103%. Stock has doubled. However, since the president took office, down about 16% at this point. Let's take a lot of this off the table now. I don't know about reputation and all that things. Let's talk about June 12th and that launch in Austin of the Robotaxi. Is that what everyone's focused on?
Without question, and that's the future of this company. The real value here is their leadership in physical AI and autonomous vehicles.
Ding, 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 ding. Tell him what he's won, Johnny. Your mother f***ing right. We're talking about robots on four wheels right now, ladies and gentlemen, going from point A to point B to point C, and then from point C back to point A. Nary an intervention in sight. When you're talking about building a robot, not on four wheels, but on two legs that can navigate the world in a fashion that is quite similar to humans, I have no problem putting my bet with Tesla.
And what we're expecting is a very modest launch that they'll have, a dozen or a couple dozen cars on the road, operating, as a, autonomous vehicle fleet. We do think they're going to claim victory on that, and that there's going to be, a very aggressive effort by the company to go through learning cycles with those vehicles on the road. That at the end of the day is going to be the future of the company. And the pace of that learning is going to really determine whether they are the leader or they're a follower here in the technology.
What do we know about just what we used to think of as the business of Tesla, just deliveries? Is it it was disappointing, I guess, recently. Does it matter anymore?
I think the real benchmark for most investors is whether the company remains cash flow positive. If they're able to continue to at least run at break-even cash levels, I think most of the bullish investors will look at the technology potential and look at the track record of the company of creating value for investors and remain involved. If they start burning cash, that's a real canary in the coal mine for us, and I think a lot of folks on the company. At this point, though, there's some real concerns around legitimate performance with drivers out in a variety of conditions, including inclement weather. As well as some complex scenarios where the vehicle has to look around multiple variables on the road. And I think how those vehicles perform in the field here over the next 3 to 6 months will have a very big weight on how the stock performs over the next several quarters.
Safety is always Tesla's main concern, but I'm looking for this thing to scale quite rapidly, like within the next few months, it to be in at least 2 cities in the state of Texas. Based on his most recent David Faber interview, he did mention San Antonio along with a few other California cities. It would not shock me in the slightest if what they did on a preliminary basis in Austin is happening right now in San Antonio. Quite frankly, it should be happening in Houston. It should be happening in Dallas. What I'm experiencing from an FSD standpoint on 13.2.9 is quite remarkable. But again, safety is key. There's no rush at this. There's no other competitor with a pure vision-based system scaling at Tesla's capacity anywhere in sight. So might as well be absolutely sure that this thing is going to go off without a hitch.
Let's start with Tesla. This stock is always making news headlines, made them again this week, particularly from the leader of the company, Elon, and his role with the administration. But they're also doing a lot of cool things when it comes to autonomous driving. We got some headlines about a potential Robotaxi launch date in Austin coming up in the next several weeks. So always news flow with this name, but it's also so actively traded, and it's always got such interesting technical setups too. Walk us through what you're paying attention to with the big time stock here in Tesla.
Yeah, so with Tesla, it came just underneath the key 380 level. And again, that's a pivot point from when we were back in December of 2024 before it broke down substantially, right? So we're watching for this kind of level. Do we break above 380? If we break above 380, you're looking at a market on Tesla that could retest the highs of around 480. So again, very big level.
Look, I don't know nothing about technical analysis. Obviously, where we are right now, we're not even close to 380. It would take a couple of days of, those 6-7% gains to even get back to those levels. Again, I don't know about technical analysis, but it is fun to listen to it. I mean, I do read the horoscope. I don't expect none of that to happen. But as far as entertainment value goes, it's hard to beat.
You guys have a beautiful wedge that you're showing there. And again, as of now, I would fade this move looking at the big rally up off of his kind of doge backing off. And again, per the chart, we can see again into resistance here. So likely a good fade. First major support should come in around 292. I would consider being a buyer around 292.
Yeah, and it's sort of just classic risk reward setup, right? Like you're looking at this saying, hey, we're close to some overhead supply. If you're willing to step in and play both sides of the market, a lot closer to resistance than support. If it does tag that resistance, turn around, you got a level quite a bit below here before maybe running into support.
Hearing something like that might give Tesla investors the urge to put on some covered calls, maybe make a little bit of money off that insurance. But be warned, should Tesla vault up, you could end up losing hundreds of shares of Tesla. But like Bruce Arians says, no risk it, no biscuit. In short, levels you should be looking at for Tesla according to technical analysis is 380 and 290. Do with that information what you will.
Here's where I struggle with the Tesla thesis a little bit, right? The AI, everything they're doing is amazing, except that what's coming out of China, to me, as a non-expert, seems more amazing. The prices of these cars, the sort of self-driving-ish capabilities that they have. Can you lay out, are those companies as good as what Tesla has?
They not like us.
And why is Waymo ahead of them?
Yeah.
How am I supposed to be so blown away by Tesla when Waymo's over here with self-driving cars already?
Okay.
They not like us.
When you look at Waymo, I mean, essentially in 4 cities, $230,000 cars each, right? So the question there is can it scale? So our whole view with Tesla is when it comes to scale, I view it as unmatched relative to engineering talent and the ability to scale. And I think Austin, what kicks off June 12th, I mean, to me, is really just the start of what's going to be the autonomous vision. And I believe we're sitting here a year from now, and cybercabs, robotaxis are going to be in 10, 15, 20
You think they
cities.
can have the cybercab manufactured in a year from now?
Oh, I think they could get to scale very quickly. And I think again and again, look, the technology that's coming out of China is significant. And someone that's seen it firsthand in terms of BYD and everything that we're looking at. But when it comes to globally, who I believe is going to dominate autonomous
But
and
aren't
robotics.
the Chinese going to do? I mean, they have cars, SUVs that cost $7,000 with some of these capabilities, right?
What? Get the out of here with that nonsense. I'm calling bull. Grok, does China have an SUV that costs $7,000? Before, you've always had the information of the world at the tips of your fingers with your phone. Now, we've got these large language models compiling data from a many sources, able to make judgment calls on truth or fiction in an instant. Watch what you say, people, especially if you're on national TV.
how much scale I can see them dominating the U.S. market for sure, absolutely. Is their engineering, their ability, what they've done with these factories better, just mind-bogglingly amazing, of course. But are they going to be able to compete on the world stage?
Look, and I think on the world stage, I think it'll be their world. Everyone else will pay rent. In terms of my view, when they get to scale and as the regulatory environment gives them an even playing field, and I think that also speaks to why Musk, it's no longer about being in the 202 error code. It's about being at Tesla, leaders lead. And I think this is going to go down. The biggest chapter of Tesla's growth story is ahead of us.
It is so difficult to listen to Dan Ives sometimes. It's like he expects you to know certain things, and these news anchors obviously don't know as much as they probably should. What's Gordon Johnson say? Vagaries and platitudes, and he's not wrong when it comes to Dan Ives. But that doesn't mean what Dan is saying isn't spot on. It's right, it just doesn't explain to someone that may not know. BYD and a lot of those Chinese EV startups, they're amazing. They're doing great things. I wish the auto manufacturers here in the US would take a page from at least their playbook, especially if Tesla's playbook is a little too complicated and it looks kind of ridiculous when Tesla is pivoting to autonomy and artificial intelligence. When I say they're not like us, they're not like us, ladies and gentlemen. Tesla, as far as I can tell, is the only auto manufacturer producing battery electric vehicles for a profit. On top of that, they've created a way to use a vision-only system with cameras and neural nets so that the robots on four wheels can navigate the space that humans occupy. They are the only company to do that, outfitting each vehicle that comes out of the factories, whether it be in the United States, China, or over there in Europe. Every vehicle has the capability of doing what Tesla plans to launch on June 12th, if you're listening to Bloomberg sources. This is huge. A Model Y that you purchase today will be the same Model Y that they use for the Robotaxi service. The implications, it goes beyond saying that there's no telling what people will be able to do, what industries they might be able to create with a robot on four wheels that drives itself. China is currently experiencing FSD version 13 on vehicles over there being supervised. And it is an ADAS system that is greater than anything that they've seen over there. Europe has yet to even experience this at a customer level. It's going to go bananas when the first thing that Europe touches as an FSD could very well be a unsupervised version of that on their personal cars. As far as Waymo goes, again, Waymo's a wonderful, wonderful company. But let's look at it this way. Dan Ives said it earlier in this piece. Each Waymo costs about $230,000 to make. That vehicle needs to be on the road for 15, 20 years just to break even when it comes to the rides. Like I said before, they not like us.
What are you looking forward to, or what are you looking for in general out of the Robotaxi launch in Austin?
I would say for the Robotaxi launch, we want to see sort of a reiteration of the timeline that Elon put in place. So, we're expecting, 10 to maybe a dozen vehicles initially, very small initial test, and then thousands of vehicles hopefully by September. That's sort of the stated timeline. I think to the extent that we get a reiteration of that, that's good for the stock because often timelines obviously get pushed with some of these launches. So that'd be the big thing I'm looking for. And then secondarily, I think back to that redemption arc, right? What is Elon's mindset? How does he kind of talk about, maybe this new era for him refocused on his companies? And I think that Robotaxi is probably the number one thing on his agenda right now if you look across all of his companies. In terms of the stock, I think Elon is one of those characters where we've always said, I think it's silly to ever bet against him. I don't think that means you should blindly sort of bet on him all the time. I think you want to pick and choose your timing. We've seen the stock go up 25% here in the last month. So I think there is some optimism coming back into the stock. It's hard to see the fundamentals really giving the stock another boost. So for me personally, we don't own the stock in Intelligent Alpha at the moment. I'd be a little bit more cautious and probably look for a dip to buy. But again, this could be a meme stock. If we go back to the Elon redemption arc, this could just purely be almost like a meme coin, just betting on Elon.
Quite a lot of optimism from the founder and CEO of Intelligent Alpha, considering their fund isn't in Tesla at the moment. They're expecting a dip, and if you listen to the technical analysis, they very well could get something where they're comfortable entering a position. But from my experience, you gotta get in where you fit in. You know, there's no telling where this stock is going to go. You want to make the best decisions, but as volatile as the name is, I'd recommend not being too choosy with your entry point, because once you're on this bucking bronco, you just better hold on tight, because Tesla's just coming out of the gate, and it's gonna be a wild ride.
Let's hear from one shareholder on what she expects post-Musk, post-Doge, now that Musk is returning. Nancy, so what next for Tesla?
Well, I think, Kelly, quickly that, full self-driving will be with us soon. Musk announced that the cars were going to drive themselves from the factory to the buyer. He's always early, but it may happen, and I think that's an important change. Megapack, which is the energy business, is growing at 113% previous quarter, 70% last quarter, and is now being mandated when there are renewables because of what happened in Spain. It's the most profitable, fastest growing part of Tesla. And then, we've got 500,000 manufacturing jobs that are not filled. And Tesla announced they're going to have thousands of robots on the factory floor by the end of the year. So I think the company is back. I think every shareholder is glad to see it. And you can see the run up in the stock. We added to it around $240 a share in March, and it's, trading around 350.
Me too. Did you?
So at your peril, you underestimate Elon Musk, who often teeters on the edge of a disaster and then pivots at just the right moment.
Nancy, I mean, it's commonplace, obviously, now to observe that the core actual car company that's producing cash flow is a small minority of whatever market value you can now attribute to the whole business. It's $1.1 trillion. The business is going to have like $10 billion in earnings next year. Put a huge multiple on it. It's still less than half. I guess, do you have to have a pretty strong sense of how quickly all the other things can kick in and actually start to become a business?
Well, I think this stock is a narrative stock, Mike. So, go back and look at Amazon all those years. It's up something like 180,000% since the IPO. And much of that time, the company was not earning money. Think of the car, the EV, as the iPhone is to the Apple ecosystem. I think the full self-driving aspect, I live in Phoenix, which is Waymo land, and it's commonplace to see these driverless cars toting passengers around. I think that part of the business is going to scale quickly and will probably be monetized pretty quickly. So it's all about the ecosystem, in my view, with Tesla. It's not about valuation, and it's not even necessarily about earnings growth, because they whiffed last quarter and the stock's up 50%.
In conclusion, Nancy pretty much summed up my summary, so I'm not gonna just repeat what she said. But if you're using fundamentals to try to gauge the value of Tesla, that's equivalent to looking out the rear windshield. The technology and the future earnings growth, yeah, that's well over the horizon. But I'm gonna tell you like this, the future has a tendency to kind of sneak up on you. If you're looking for a glimpse, I'll see you in Austin. That's all I've got for you today. Be easy. Peace.